What's up, guys? Before we started the podcast, I just wanted to quickly say thank you guys so much for 50,000 subs. I'm not really one to really make a big deal out of milestones, but obviously this isn't just my accomplishment, it's you guys, and big shout out to Clash Royale for featuring me in game. That obviously helped me get to 50,000 and surpass it very quickly, but thank you to those that saw the video and enjoyed it enough to sub and everything. So for those that haven't seen these before, these are going to be a podcast with other pro players and people within the Clash Royale community, and we're going to talk about the current climate of Clash Royale. So I hope you enjoy, and I will see you on the other side. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another Royale Roundtable. Today we have Mike, Tobi, and Aaron on, Clash Royale pro players and people that have been involved in the community. And I'll just go ahead and let them all introduce themselves now.
Hey, how's it going? I'm Aaron, formerly Aaron Play TV on Twitch, and currently on Kraniz Esports.
All right, my name is Mike Jesus, and I'm partners on YouTube channel with Swid. Check it out.
Yo, what's up, guys? Tobi's here. I'm a top ladder player and German pro player and content creator too.
Yeah, and I'll link all their descriptions that they give me in the video below. Alright, so to start off, we can just go ahead and go over some balance changes. So before we get into, we're going to go over every individual change, which I've done a little bit before, and I'll get your thoughts. But so far, what do you guys think just in general about the balance changes and how it's affected the meta?
Well, the first thing that I kind of noticed was before the balance change, I was really wanting the Royal Ghost to get a big nerf. I'm like, it's too strong, I hate it. And now that it is nerfed, it's kind of like that ex-girlfriend that I didn't really appreciate. I'm like, you're like, I didn't like you when you're here, but now that you're gone, like, I want you back. Like, you were so good. I didn't realize it. Because the thing that kind of struck me was the Royal Ghost filled kind of the holes in so many different decks and archetypes, where now I feel like there's a lot more rock, paper, scissors because you don't have that card that's both incredibly strong on defense and offense. And I want the Royal Ghost back. I just don't have it maxed, sadly.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, Mike, you first.
Nah, Toby, you got this. You got this. I'll go last.
Yeah, I like the Royal Ghost. I maxed it out. It's a very powerful card. Sadly, it got nerfed. But overall, I like the Hunter buff. I like the card very much. It's a nice card. I like the Seppi buff. It's like in some decks like Lockbait, really good. And yeah, what changed? I think overall not too much. Goblin Heart got no nerf, no lightning buff.
Yeah, basically the same.
Yeah, not too much changed.
So for me, as a big beatdown player, I'm kind of in love with the Lumberjack nerf. Although I mean, it wasn't deserved, I guess you could say. Yeah, the buff. Sorry. Did I say that? Oops. Okay, no worries, English is not my forte. But the Lumberjack buff kind of just pushed the card to an insane status and made the Golem deck that was already kind of dominant just still really strong. So I definitely think that wasn't necessary. I'm really enjoying the Hunter buff. I think it's a phenomenal card now, and I think probably where it needs to be. And then as far as, Royal Ghost, as Aaron said, it's kind of like the X you missed. It's just unfortunate where it is at now. The game is much more rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah. I'm not... I don't know that I'm too upset about like the matchups that are in the meta right now, but yeah, Royal Ghost. I thought they were just kind of nerfed his invisibility maybe, but I mean in the past they've under-nerfed things, and this time they decided it's still viable. It's not as good as it was before. I think people will find decks that it's still good in, but it's like the Prince deck that I really liked before that had Skeleton Barrel, Inferno Dragon, all of those. I don't think it really works unless you have like a miner now, because you don't have the same kind of pressure you did. With just Skeleton Barrel and Ghost, it's more of a support card that can maybe do damage than almost like guaranteed damage every game, just because it would always survive and get a couple hits off. So yeah, Ghost definitely not in as good a position, but I'm not. We'll talk more after we get through the balance changes about decks that we like right now. But I'm not too bad on the decks that are viable right now. So next up, we're just gonna go in order, would be Zappies. So what do you guys think about Zappies now?
I still don't think they're that good. Like right when the balance changes hit, I saw so many people trying to play Zappy's decks. Colton, I tried your Three Musketeer Zappy deck with some success until I ran into another pro player just running Three Musketeer with Minion Horde, and I was like, oh, well, I wish I just had Minion Horde right now. God damn it. They're not bad. They're definitely playable, but I think they're still probably like a third-tier card, as opposed to something that you just have to throw on a dumpster fire.
So I'd have to agree with Aaron on that. I think Zappies are still underpowered, especially when compared to other 4 elixir cards for similar costs. They have like a poison bait aspect to them, but it's just underwhelming. I think they should be 3 elixir and then nerf their stats to some capacity. I think that would be probably one of the better ways to make the card viable, because at 4 elixir, I compete with cards like Hunter, Musketeer, Electro Wizard. And those cards are just so phenomenal at what they do, and Zappies just feel underwhelming in comparison.
Yeah, I think the same way. Zappies are good like in lock bait to bait out poisons, and you can play Goblin Gang or Princess, but overall not so good, I think.
Yeah, I think it is viable. It's used in the Spellbait deck to a great success right now. And maybe like one other one. But I've switched out Zappies and started using Minion Horde in my Musketeer deck. It works. And I also don't use Miner anymore. I use Lumberjack because it pairs really well. It's just a slightly different version of like one of the meta ones. But I still think they're good, or at least viable. They're not bad. They're good in some situations, and they can present a threat on counter pushes more than obviously used to. They were terrible, so now they're at least usable. And I think maybe more decks will be made that can make use of them, or if they get a buff, then they'll be seen in a lot of decks, I think. But all in all, I mean, it's a big buff for sure, because before they were actually like the worst card in the game, and now they're like second, third tier for sure, I think. So next up, the Hunter. The range goes from 5 to 4. The bullet spread slightly smaller. Projectile range is at 6.5. I oddly saw people like debating whether they thought this was a buff or nerf when the changes first came through. As I explained in a past video, it's obviously a buff because he does more damage the closer his bullets are spread together. His range makes his bullets spread closer, and his spread is also smaller, so that helps him in both ways. The one case where I think you could maybe make an argument that he's worse than before is you can't play him like a Musketeer in the opposite lane to kill like a hog and then counter push, but he would be doing like 5 damage anyway, so I don't know why that would be useful. So you guys can go ahead and give your opinions on Hunter.
I think it's just a really good card. I think it was good beforehand, and they made it even better. The only other place where it might have gotten slightly weaker is against Graveyard. Like that real big spread was nice.
That's true. That's true.
But honestly, like who cares? Like overall, it was a buff, and I know I've been just looking for ways to incorporate it into different decks. It is a little bit tricky because it's still not the greatest like behind a tank or something like that, but it's so good defensively. And one of the archetypes I saw where I'm like, okay, I think Hunter could be really strong is in balloon decks, which is not something I've played in the past. So I'm like, all right, I think I have to learn how to play balloon now.
Yeah, like a cycle balloon deck. It's also really good in minor cycle decks, and it's also probably the best in Expo, is what I've found. You guys take it away as well.
Yeah, I think its spot is kind of an Expo. I think the deck was already viable before with the previous patch. But I think with how the Hunter is now with these balance changes, it's a phenomenal deck, and it kind of shores up a lot of the weaknesses Expo already had, as it deals with tanks very efficiently. Come out with like Ice Spirit, Log, stuff like that. Slow down the progress of big tanks, and Hunter just clears away those troops without much of an issue. So I think that's where it really shines. Obviously, it's really good in minor control, as it takes out basically things that the deck inherently struggles with, and you get a little bit of chip damage, not a lot if it gets onto the tower, but it's still something, and every little bit counts in that kind of deck. So
yes,
I'm a big fan of the changes.
Yes, I can just agree. What I don't like at the Hunter is like he attacks very slowly. I think every 2.2 seconds, that's really slow. Yeah. If you zap the Hunter perfect and you're playing like Loon Cycle or something, if you zap it perfect, you can out-zap the Hunter so the Loon gets one hit.
That's nice. I didn't know that.
I'm a big fan of Loon Cycle.
Yeah, and then you can I've seen like a video tag shade where if the Hunter player is really unlucky and it shoots like as the balloon gets on top of it, it'll miss every single shot. That was pretty funny.
Yeah. I think it needs like little bit far faster attack speed or something.
Yeah.
It's just my opinion.
I think we'll have to see how it plays out. It's definitely like a strong card right now too, but it's not oppressive by any means. I thought maybe I mean it depends on how much they had changed the actual spread, but they didn't change it enough to where like he's doing full damage from like 3 tiles out. He still has to be on top of the unit, and then his damage is just slightly increased because like now if he reaches tower, he does like 100 damage more or something like that, 150. So definitely a buff, but nothing oppressive. He was good before, and he's slightly better now. And then I'll just quickly mention the next two. So Night Witch and Bats. Night Witch initial bats spawn quicker, and then Bats the hit speed goes from 1 to 1.1 seconds. Obviously Bats are a little bit decreased, but do you guys like notice the change too much, or what do you think about it?
Not really.
Yeah.
I guess there could be some very specific circumstances like where you have to kill something that's incoming really quick, where the bat's spawning quicker. But all in all, it's not too much.
Yeah.
So I think the change isn't all that drastic, but the one thing I do want to point out is Swood went on CWA's channel and talked about this exact nerf, and that's pretty much what they did. So it's kind of good to know that Supercell does listen to some extent to the community on what changes they think should happen. So I think that's a good step forward, and I think Bats are still a little too strong, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think the same. I think it changes not too much. Like in Zapbait, Inferno Dragon, Prince, Skeleton Berry decks, it will be still very good. And like in Hog Cycle, where you can outside with the Zap with, like, if you play Bats, then Skeletons, Ice Spirit, Musketeer, then you have Bats back in Cycle, they don't have a Zap. I think it's still a very good card.
Yeah. Oh, and speaking of like them listening about the community, I DM'd them a while back because I made a post about potentially getting like a group of pros, and I'll add Tobi to that as well. About getting a group of pros that could send them like feedback on balances and what we think could change. And they replied, and they of course they said they can't guarantee they'll do any of the stuff we say, but that we could do like a report for them for like a group of pro players and send it to them that they would read through it. So I have you help with that in the future. But we got like 10 pros. We haven't done one yet because the balance just came out. But that's cool that they're listening to us now. The fact that they took anything that pro players have into consideration is nice. And obviously we're not always going to be right, but neither are they. And we play the game a lot. So that'll be nice that they can listen to it a little bit more. And then before we move on, yeah, I think for Bats too. I think since a lot of the time they get zapped away, the initial damage is actually going to be the same. It's going to be 5 rounds of hits. It's going to be the exact same damage. It's really just prolonged cases where they're a little bit worse. So if your opponent doesn't have zap, they won't like shred a tank quite as much, but it's only like a small nerf. And then Night Witch feels almost exactly the same. I don't think it's that big of a difference.
I think I'm playing Golem Night Witch on ladder. I think Night Witch is a little bit better because you need to play the Night Witch early against Giant Hawk. If you pump up, then they rush you. And if the bats come a little bit earlier, that makes much. Because they need to zap them, and then the next bats are in some seconds ready again.
Yeah, true. Because Night Witch is going to be better on defense now and slightly worse and prolonged pushes, but usually people want to poison her anyway. So I do think Night Witch maybe got a slight buff, and then obviously Bats got a slight nerf. So yeah, that's the same. And then, those are. And I do think though the accumulation of the Ghost nerf and the Bats nerf has made the Goblin Hut Skeleton Barrel decks pretty bad actually. I don't really see those. Yeah. Oh, what were you gonna say?
I think the same.
Well, I think the reason we don't see a whole lot of that is Royal Ghost was such a
I think it was really important
part of the deck. Yeah, and until someone finds a change that makes the deck just as valid, it's not going to see as much play. Especially
with the Prince variation I use, the combination of Bats nerf, and then I think it was really the combination of Bat, Skeleton Barrel, Inferno Dragon, and Royal Ghost that was really important in a lot of decks. And I'm just not seeing it much anymore. I don't see that much Skeleton Barrel, and when I do see it, it doesn't seem that hard to beat. So I guess just the accumulation of nerfs actually was enough to kind of put that deck down, which is nice. I think the Ghost was the most important part. Skeleton Barrel and Ghost was an annoying combo. So that was interesting. And then next up was Lava Hound. It just got a 5% hit point buff. But we are seeing a lot more Lava Hound, actually.
Yeah, well, I think it's because there were a lot of like just diehard Lava Loon players, and it was so bad that they're just like, all right, we can't play it. And then all of a sudden, you know, short of what like Bokum, I think just played it anyways because that's how he rolls. But
Yeah.
all the other Lava Loon players were like, yes, like there's hope. We see light at the end of the tunnel. Let's do this. And they went back to it. I mean, it's still not as strong as Lava Loon once was, where it was like, all right, you play the lava, you play the loon, game over. But
Yeah.
it's a little bit better, and it's viable. It's definitely annoying because there's a lot of decks now that just don't have that much air support.
Yeah.
But that all goes back to kind of like I think the increase of rock paper scissors post balance shift.
So I think the hit points buff it got of 5% is actually completely irrelevant. I think it's more of just a mindset that people have, like, oh, Lava Hound got a buff, let me try it out again. Just because everyone kind of gravitated away towards lots and lots of air troops, just because, like the Skeleton Barrel deck was spawned out of favor. And so they didn't really have enough counters for Lava Hound, because think about what actually kills a Lava Hound. 9 times out of 10, it's like an Inferno Dragon or something with really high DPS. So that 5% hit point buff isn't really going to do a whole lot. It's maybe, like 40 damage, 100 damage on a tower, maybe. So I don't really think it's all that relevant. I just think Lava Hound is a okay like dark horse deck for the format right now. So I think that's why it's seeing so much popularity at the moment.
Yeah, I think the same. Like in competitive, Lava Loon or Lava Cycle or Lava Miner can be a really good surprise deck, because some people, as Evan said and Mike, don't have too much air defense. And if they only have like Inferno Dragon and Bats and you're playing Lava Loons, they can stop it. And if 5%, I think it's good. It's not too bad. It's a good buff because Hunter got buffed too. Night Witch got a little bit better.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think I'm seeing a lot less Lava Loon and a lot more like Lava Miner with like Fly Machine or like Swarm behind the Lava Hound. And those decks seem pretty good. And yeah, I think that's actually maybe probably another reason that the Inferno Dragon Skeleton Barrel Bats deck isn't being type of variation of decks isn't being used anymore, is because those decks are absolutely terrible against Lava Loon, because you don't have to zap the bats and you just zap the Inferno Dragon with whatever support you have behind the Lava Hound. It just destroys. You can't defend it. So that could be a very big reason why that deck isn't quite as important anymore. And then we won't talk about Goblin Hunt because it's basically the same. It literally lost one goblin. So that, I mean, yeah, like I've been playing decks where I freaking just spam Goblin Huts because it's still just so strong. It's better than like Pump in the current meta for the like I've seen 3 must decks that just use Goblin Hunt. Obviously I made one too, but before especially people were using Goblin Hunt just because it's such a value play that always kind of nets you a positive elixir trade over time. People can miner it and not get like a positive trade. It's like neutral. It just lowers the HP and then 2 towers kill it. And it'll either put out damage or force your opponent into bad trades, and it's just always a safe play. So I would like to see. I use it a lot, but I would like to see more nerfs in the future, as I'm sure most people agree. And then we'll do these two together. Mini P.E.K.K.A. and Lumberjack both got a 7% HP buff. So what do you guys think about those two?
I feel like Lumberjack is almost the new Royal Ghost. It's the card that's getting thrown everywhere, and people are like, "Ah, God damn it, Lumberjack! You just wrecked me. I wasn't ready for that." I mean, and it's so strong to the point where we tested this last night. Like, if something is tanking the tower, Lumberjack will just absolutely shred through guards if it's a like straight 1v1 guard.
Oh yeah, of course.
Lumberjack,
yeah.
And it'll have like, I don't know, I think it was like 2/3 of its health left. So there's just not a great way to stop it. It's just incredibly strong, and you're seeing it in all types of archetypes. The one question I've heard a lot of people ask, they're like, well, okay, I thought Lumberjack maybe needed a buff, but why buff Mini P.E.K.K.A.? And I understand why they did it. Because they wanted to keep those two cards somewhat in balance. I mean, it's always been Mini P.E.K.K.A. should be just a little bit stronger in terms of health and DPS, but it doesn't have that great added rage effect. And if they didn't buff Mini P.E.K.K.A., I mean, Lumberjack would just be so much head and shoulders better that there'd be absolutely no point to run Mini P.E.K.K.A. ever. And there really isn't now, but at least for free-to-play players or people who don't have it, that there's some advantages it has over Lumberjack.
Yeah, it works a little bit better in that one Hog deck, but I don't think Hog is very good right now. So
yeah, I tend to agree with that. I think Lumberjack just is a very overwhelming card. It gets a lot more value for the elixir cost than what it's worth. In the past, I think Lumberjack was a decent card for 4 elixir, and now I think it's well overpowered. It just doesn't really. There aren't a lot of troops that can deal with it efficiently. Like, it'll melt a P.E.K.K.A. if the P.E.K.K.A. is hitting on a golem relatively quickly, and it's not really something you can kill with poison, which is everywhere. So I think it's gonna cause some kind of big shift in the meta somewhere down the line.
Yes, I'm almost the same again. I like Lumberjack very much. I played it before in Hog Cycle, before the buff, and in Golem Beatdown with Nightwitch, Baby Tornado. It was still pretty good because the big advantage over Mini P.E.K.K.A. is Lumberjack melts Goblin Gang, guards, and all that stuff. You cannot easily distract it. But I think it got buffed and Mini P.E.K.K.A. because Prince is so good right now. But I think it's not needed. Mini P.E.K.K.A. don't need a nerf and Lumberjack too. They need to nerf Prince.
Yeah, I will say
Prince. What do you think? Prince is so good right now.
Yeah, I like Prince, but I honestly don't know if there's any decks that I use right now that uses it as much as before. I still think it's strong. I thought it was really strong last patch with that one deck in particular that I used. That was like the Skelly Barrel bait deck, but I don't know that. I mean, Giant still uses it. But I don't really. I guess the bait deck too. But I have decks right now that counter the bait deck pretty hard. But I could see it getting a nerf. It is good against Lumberjack actually, so that may make it more usable. And I'm a little bit lower on Lumberjack than you guys. I don't think he's OP. I think the buff was okay. I don't know. I didn't particularly want a Lumberjack buff, but I think he's viable now because people weren't using him before. But I think he's obviously up and very good in this current meta. And then Mini P.E.K.K.A. Yeah, still not going to see that much use. It's obviously better than before. I'm surprised they didn't give the same type of buff to Valkyrie though, kind of in the same tier of cards. And Valkyrie's less viable than both of them, so that was kind of odd.
Yes.
I think Supercell's is kind of giving up on Valkyrie, admitting there's better cards in the game that fill her role, i.e. Royal Ghost.
Yeah, I wondered in the past they are buffing for someone's Bomber, Witch, and set are good cards, but not in competitive play or not in top ladder. They're good cards for Arena 6, Arena 5, and whatever to get high and get better cards.
I wouldn't mind seeing a Bomber buff. I wouldn't want to see a Witch buff just because that's another card that would be used in beatdown if it was strong. But Bomber could be a good utility card if it got buffed. So that'd be interesting. And then finally, we'll just go to the last balance change, which is Mortar.
Sorry, I'm just having PTSD flashbacks from Mortar bait on ladder where I'm just no, there's just more cards I can't zap. There's mortars hitting my towers. Make it stop.
Yeah.
I've heard people talk about Mortar, where they're like, well, it's stronger defensively now. It's a little bit weaker offensively, and I don't know. Honestly, I just prefer not to think about Mortar because I'm freaking sick of Mortar bait. I hate that deck.
Yeah.
So I know Swood's really high on Mortar bait. He always has been. I'm indifferent to the buff. I think it has its advantages. It has its disadvantages. I'm always going to be an Expo player at heart for my go-to Siege deck, but I understand why people play Mortar, and I don't really have much to say about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think overall it's not a big nerf, little bit. I think Mortar is a good archetype for free-to-play players or players that have 100k cards won and want to get really high in ladder. And if you are really good with Mortar, you can get top 200 end season. But you need to be very, very good. But you can hit champ with Mortar easily.
Yeah, I agree. And it's really just a ladder deck.
Yes.
Even before the nerf, which I don't think the nerf was huge. I think it definitely made it a little bit worse overall in ladder. But it was never... Because if you ever tried to play Mortar Swarm in a Grand Challenge, you would get to 8 wins max. It was too difficult to beat anyone with in tournament standard. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't really good either. So... I'm indifferent to that nerf as well. It doesn't really work in competitive all that well unless you know what your opponent's going to play and it has like a specifically good matchup where they like can't distract it or something. So yeah, that's all for the balance changes. So overall, I guess we can move on now to decks that you guys like. But overall, I think the balance. I do think the balance changes were good. I don't mind the ghost nerf, but everyone has a different outlook on things, and that's fine. So what decks do you guys like the most right now?
You know what? I wish I had a little bit more to bring to the table right now because pre-balance changes, I had like several decks I was really high on. Now, like I always feel like there's something I'm not going to be able to deal with. So I mean, the decks I found that are still consistently good against maybe like 60% of the stuff out there are, the Golem Hut deck, and then you just swap in Lumberjack for Royal Ghost.
Yeah.
But I'm seeing a lot more of these like Mega Knight Zap Bait decks. And you do tend to get overwhelmed because unless you can get really valuable poisons on a bunch of Zap Bait cards, you just don't have quite enough to deal with those. So I like that deck. I feel like Balloon Cycle might kind of make a comeback, whereas before Skeleton Barrel. So there's been a few Balloon Cycles that I've been trying out with Hunter to some success. I wish I was a better Siege player because the Expo Hunter deck is really strong right now. I'm just not very good at Siege. And the only other deck, which I still think is good, and for anyone listening, featured prominently on Swid and Mike G's channel, is this really weird, like, off-meta Sparky Mega Knight Goblin Barrel deck, which doesn't seem like it would work, but it still does, and it just really catches people off guard. And I think it's even viable for competitive play. With Rocket phasing out, I actually think if someone's creative, there might be a place for Sparky, just because it does deal with a lot of things that people are playing now. Sure. And there's always that like WTF, like what's happening factor. People are trying to figure out what you're playing. But so I guess those are the four that I'm kind of looking at. But I'm eagerly awaiting what you guys say because I am not happy with any deck right now.
So I personally am a really big fan of the Hunter Expo deck. It's my go-to deck right now, 100%. I think it doesn't really have too many bad matchups, and the ones you struggle with, you can outplay in most situations as long as you're just the better player overall. So I'm really high on that. I really like the minor chip deck with Hunter as well. I'm really high on Hunter, so any deck with Hunter I'm a fan of. That's kind of how I feel the meta's going right now.
Mike, could you give the list of because there's been a couple different minor Hunter decks. Which one do you prefer?
The one I was playing I think it was the one that was really, where was it? Okay, so P.E.K.K.A, Mega Minion, Poison, Log, Minor, Hunter, Ice Spear, and Lumberjack. It's basically the one that everyone was playing in ESWC, but with Hunter instead of Ewis. That's the one
you said P.E.K.K.A? What was that supposed to be?
What?
Yeah, P.E.K.K.A.
Okay.
Wait, with P.E.K.K.A in it?
Yeah.
Were people at ESWC playing it with P.E.K.K.A? Like I said, I didn't get to see much of it.
No. So the one at ESWC was Electro Wizard for Hunter. I'm just trying out the one at ESWC. I liked it a lot. It's a very solid deck. So right now I'm just playing around with it with Hunter. Obviously, the much cheaper 2.5 minor cycle deck is probably a little better for where Hunter belongs. But I'm just trying new things, seeing what works right now.
Okay. I think I'll read off the list too that I think people said. Wait. It was the one that people were using was the one with archers in it, right? I think.
I think archers are actually a really good card right now.
Archers, Hunter, Ice Spirit, Expo, Tesla, Ice Golem, Fireball Log. Wait. P.E.K.K.A for.
So
right?
It was.
Or was that was the one I screenshot from you? It doesn't have Tesla in it, does it?
No, the one that they were using in ESWC had Hunter Mega Minion guards, no Tesla.
Okay, yeah.
Yep, both decks are good with Tesla, Archers, Ice Golem Skeletons.
That version is good as well, yeah.
Yeah, that are both top tier Expo decks.
Alright, and then for you, Tobi, what do you like the most right now?
Yeah, I'm playing Golem on ladder. I like Golem, Minor Poison with Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
The cheap one, Skeletons, Mega Minion, Ice Golem. What I'm playing too, Frimaskis, the Lumberjack. I play many decks. I'm trying out new things and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
played Zappies with Zappies Lockbait, just Zappies, Knight, Goblin Gang, no Rocket, Poison, no NATO, and yeah, I got 12 wins with it. It's a solid deck too. I'm playing many stuff right now.
Yeah, that's
better and all.
Yeah, that's something that I've noticed. People are that deck is really successful as a log bait. It's just basically log bait, poison, and then zappies. And then for me personally, I've been a big fan of obviously the golem deck that has lumberjack instead of ghost. That's really strong. And then I have the weird variation of 3 Musk that I've been using and getting 12 wins really often with. And then I think P.E.K.K.A. with Battle Ram, and then instead of Ghost, you can have Bandit, or you can do Ghost. I've been going back and forth between them. And then Diego B has a version right now where instead of like Flying Machine and Minions, he has Dark Goblin and Goblin Gang, and it's actually really good for.
Deck is very good.
I'm testing it a lot because it's really nice because Battle Ram, Goblin Gang, and Dark Goblin all bait log. So it has more synergy than Minions Flying Machine did. So I'm really interested in testing that deck more. It seems strong. And then the Graveyard deck with Ice Wizard, Tornado, and all that is good as well.
Yeah, I think that fits your playstyle too. You won like with Rich Spam, P.E.K.K.A. Gamer Tree Master, right?
Yeah, when I won, yeah. It's a similar deck.
Video. Enjoyed it, dude.
Yeah, I really like that as well. So moving on from decks, we were talking a little bit off stream or off video before we got into this about like the shop, like the current state of the shop, the new chest, and all that. So you guys can kind of share the thoughts we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, well, I was saying I'm probably in the minority where I really don't like where the shop's at, because I've got a deck that's or card list that's mostly maxed. You know, I'm missing Mega Knight, I'm missing Royal Ghost, I'm missing Hunter. So when I do get those cards, which are very, very rare, I want to be able to buy as many of them as possible, because it's nice that I'm getting all these legendaries in shop, but I don't need another princess. I really, really don't. And so it's tough. I mean, I had at one point had maxed my account without opening a single chest that I bought. It was all from challenges, and just the prospect of trying to grind out enough to get another legendary maxed is just a little bit daunting. So like I really kind of miss the old shop. I can see where it's a benefit for people that are still level 11s, level 12s trying to get to a max card list, but man, I don't want to play like 8,000 more, 800,000 more, I should say, challenge cards.
Yeah. And I think Aaron's in a very specific boat for where the shop is at right now, because I think the shop is really good for semi-max players, people who aren't like super pay to win, but do spend money in the game for grand challenges, because it lets you get your legendaries to a respectable level and universally level them up pretty evenly. Like Swood did some math, and the last like 35 days he's gotten I think 24 legendaries, so they're really good about just giving you legendaries in general. But like as Aaron was saying, for the players who only need like 1 card or 2 cards maxed, which is a position I know a lot of top pros are in right now, it's not the greatest because you can only buy 1, even if it does come into shop more often. So I think maybe a good system would be to implement like the ability to buy a second one or something to that extent with legendaries. That's just my 2 cents though.
Yeah, I maxed out. I maxed my Royal Ghost with Fortune chest. It took like only 107k gems. It's good to max out new cards with a Fortune chest if you have the card in it. But overall, I liked the new old shop, the really old shop more, because you can buy like 3 legendaries. I maxed my account mostly like with grand challenges too. I have like 700 cards won. But the last couple months I got the new legendary, so I got a full maxed account.
Yeah, the one thing I would point out though are the people that are inclined to drop really large amounts of money in shop are the people in my situation. So they made it, where it's like, oh, they just need, somebody like Tobi, where he had everything maxed but Royal Ghost. So they made it better for the people who probably weren't going to spend, you know, $1,000 or something to max one card, and they made it harder for the, you know, to max it through challenges for the people that would spend a lot of money. But you know, they've got those little incentives like the fortune chests. Oh, you can just buy, you know, 20 fortune chests. It's no big deal. Come on. So I don't know. I'm just a little bitter because, like I said, I have 800,000 cards won, and I didn't have a top tier ladder deck for several seasons now.
Yeah, I'd say it probably just depends on what situation you're in. For me, it's been better than the old shop because I do GCs, but I'll run out of gold because I try to upgrade stuff. If I was more disciplined, my account would be better, but I don't really care because I play on tournament standard most times anyway. But I'm getting to the point where I have probably like I have like 1 or 2 legendaries max, and then I have 4 more that are level 4 and like very close. So for me, it's nice because I get like every legendary and I just buy every single one. I buy every single epic, and my epics are all starting to get maxed. So it's good for people in my position more so. And then of course the chests are good for people who are like rich and actually like instantly want cards maxed. But it's worse for people who have grinded just a ton of GCs like Aaron, for sure. And you can't save up gold and just buy 3 legendaries. You can only get 1 at a time. So it's better for like disbursement than it is for concentrated like getting the cards.
Yeah.
You know, that's one thing I would love though. Like let me buy 1 legendary for 1 million gold, or something.
Yeah.
I've been sitting on 1 million gold for I think 2 months now. Like I have nothing to do with it. Like, and I think that would be that. I mean, that's terrible value, but like at this point, I'd take it. Just anything.
Yeah, like 200,000 gold or something like crazy, but just because I mean you have no use for the gold.
Yeah, seriously.
Something I do want to point out really quick is just like Supercell could have been a lot greedier had they not implemented the new chess system. Because like with Super Magicals, like the prospect of upgrading a single card was very daunting. Talking millions of gems here. Whereas now with like fortune chests, they definitely lowered that number by a pretty substantial amount. You could get like just some rough math. How much is a fortune chest? So like 6 fortune chests the cost of Super Magical. So I mean, it's quite a change. And even though it's not a perfect world, I think it is a happy medium. But they definitely need to add more legendaries to the shop or do something that lets max players utilize their gold.
Yeah, bring for all tournaments back, man.
I think that's something we can all get behind.
All right, and so for the next topic, I do have to go like relatively soon, so probably go for like another like 10-15 minutes. But for the next topic, we can just talk about the most recent competitive events. So we've had ESWC Clan Wars, which I'm gonna have to watch the VODs. I was, I think, asleep when most of it happened. And then we also had the Nemo Sus Cup that I'm participating in. I'll talk more about that, but I'll let you guys that saw ESWC, namely Mike, talk about that.
Okay, so for ESWC Clan Wars, I think it was a really ingenious format. I really like the idea of, best of sevens with a revival. I think that's a really cool format strategy and something I haven't really seen implemented too much. So going forward, I want to see a lot more of that. I thought it made things more interesting as it let you rely on a star player a lot more and still kept the team aspects, which is really cool. Also, with different player styles and stuff like that, I think it gave people an option to kind of like choose their revival based on their opponents. So I was a really big fan of that system, and not having card bans is actually something I'm kind of in favor for. Even though it brings a lot of variance to the table, it gives players a lot more decks that they have to like try to learn and different formats and practice bans and stuff. And with a new balance change that just happened, I feel like that might have been a little too overwhelming. So I was really happy with like the production and how it was all done. Also, the animation was really cool. Besides that, I think we saw a lot of good decks, and I think the meta started to solidify a little bit. Queso obviously won. Huge shout out to them. They're an amazing team, and that wasn't really too big of a surprise for me. I mean, it was just an amazing event, and I think Expo Hunter, Graveyard, Miner were all big decks that showed up there, and all showed up with a vengeance. You messing with your cheesehead there?
Yeah, I think, like I said, I didn't see it. I just saw like what they posted to Twitter. But the second place was surprising. The Echo Roshi team. That
Yeah,
had
it was a German team.
yeah.
I thought they were actually going to be eliminated. So they were down, I think, like 1-3, and then they had one dude who just completely swept the other team. It was insane.
Yeah, because I fully expected Millennium to get second, and then Asus third, and then them fourth. But they had a really nice showing. Not that I didn't get to see the matches too much, but yeah, I saw they were all German players, and one is in Arena Quesito actually. He's wearing a Queso jersey.
Too.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I noticed that because I looked him up. He had beaten me in a GC when I was screwing around the day before, I think. I didn't.
He brought you on Twitter.
Wait, what did you say?
Did he post it said on Twitter, Kappa?
Oh yeah,
GG, bro.
No, basically, because I had posted, I even said I was like I lost one match because I was spamming huts, and he was like, "Oh, I'm just a better player." I'm like, I was gonna win the game. I stopped playing Three Musketeers and was just stacking pumps, and I let a golem get through, and then I just lost my tower. But I mean, he was a good player.
Yeah.
Clearly, he had a strong showing.
Yeah. That was really cool that they got second rather. And then obviously I'm happy Queso won. I was just about that format in general for competitive, because it's similar to what the Sus Cup is also doing. I will say that when I'm talking about the format that Mike just mentioned as well, is where you have either 3 or 5 players, and it's like King of the Hill format where one person can wipe out the entire enemy team, and then at the end you get a revival. I don't know. I like the revival. I will say I prefer best of 3s over best of 1s always.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think I think that format is perfect if it's best of 3s. Like every matchup is best of 3s. That person gets eliminated, and then the other player stays on and can do another best of 3. That's like my ideal format.
Yeah.
So that's how they did it at King's Cup 2, didn't they?
Yeah, I believe so.
Rivals, did they?
They didn't, but otherwise, King of the Hill format still. Yeah, I agree. So for King's Cup, the qualifiers are terrible. They shouldn't do in-game tournaments for any more than you can from like 300 people to like 40 people. It's good. In-game tournaments will eliminate the bad players for the most part. Or the good players will advance. Once you get down to like 40 people, it gets to be super sketchy because people are just sniping each other.
Yeah, that's bad.
Yeah, and it's
win trading went on a
that's like later end of season.
And I mean, if one of your friends is playing and you're in and you can't win, you're just gonna give them the win. Like it's a really flawed concept when you get down to the small amount of people. But once people advanced, it was a really good format. I really liked the King's Cup on stage format. And then, so I'm a really big fan of that format. I wish we had discovered it sooner because, like, when I qualified for the Coronation Day thing, their format was trash. It was like double decks. Double decks are so terrible because if your opponent has one deck that happens to counter both of yours, it's like you can eliminate the other deck and then just lose 3 in a row. So I hated that format. This is much better in my opinion.
The one thing though I was just really happy to see, I mean, because we're talking about a lot of these big events that have like major sponsors behind them. It's like, yeah, if you've got YouTube Gaming or Samsung or whoever, giving you a huge bankroll to run an event, it's easy to make happen. But like Sus Cup, which I've really enjoyed watching.
Yeah.
Like he just like went out and got a sponsor and was like, I'm gonna hold an awesome tournament on my own and just do it, which I think is great. I mean, because particularly for North American players, there's not that many options out there. There's like 8 million events in Europe. There's more in Latin America. North America, there's always this big drought of like, oh, we've got no competitive play. And if more people would do what Nemos did and go out, get a sponsor, you really don't need that much money if it's all online. You can have a great event. And like personally, like I think just because of that whole drafting in the beginning and getting to watch people do it, like I kind of got a little emotionally invested where I'm watching. I'm like, oh, I think that team's the best. Oh, I can't believe I think they're undervaluing Lupanji. Oh, okay.
Yeah, now the draft was a really good idea.
Yeah, it was so like I got like into it. Like I kind of picked the team that I thought was going to do well, and now I'm just kind of enjoying watching it all play out. So like just props to Nemos for putting that together, and just saying any other big content creators that have a little bit of a following, Tobi, and could just put cool tournaments together. Just don't hesitate because these things are fun. And there's not enough of them.
And he's running it the correct way, and he's a cool guy, and he has connections with the pro players. So I mean, he's got a ton of big names involved, obviously.
Yes, I'm a big fan of it. What I don't like about ESWC Clan Wars, two teams got invited first. I have no problem with that. Yeah, Team Veso and Team Millennium is a French team. It's really good, but only two teams could qualify.
Really odd.
What you think
only
about
4
that?
teams.
Yeah, 2 teams got qualified first, and only 2 teams can qualify.
Yeah,
I don't like that. Like, I would prefer like 6 teams and 2 pre-qualified. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think 8 teams.
Yeah, but I think that did it because it was too long.
Yeah.
For fewer spectacular.
How long did it take, Mike?
I think 2 hours for free. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
it was definitely a good chunk of time.
Well, you mean 2 or 3 hours total, like for the entire event?
Not for the main event. So for like the Clan Wars thing, it was like pretty much a whole day. I'm pretty sure. I didn't watch most of it, but like I was following it a little bit.
Wait, it took all day with the format they had? Was it?
Yeah, for the Clan Wars, to qualify people.
Oh no! I don't mean for qualifiers. I mean for the actual event. Like, how long did that last?
Oh,
I
3 hours.
Yeah, like nothing, right? Yeah.
I think 5 or 6 hours because
Really?
they made some breaks and all, and they had a loser bracket too.
Okay, gonna say because the actual format, because it was just like first to win 4 matches, right? Like that's nothing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, but they make some breaks and all that.
Yeah, so I mean,
like 15-minute breaks between each round.
Okay, yeah, because because I mean, what is that like an hour and a half of breaks or something, or like an hour or more? Yeah, because it sounds like with the format they decided to go with, in my opinion, that definitely, if you have if only that many teams, it should definitely be best of 3s because the actual gameplay, like you could have one of those over in like 30 minutes. It sounds like because I mean it's four best of 1s in a row. That's like nothing.
Yeah.
I definitely think they should have had at least like 8 teams, but I mean I still like that type of event. I like this.
I like it too.
I like these teams so much better than individual events. As someone who has won and made a lot of money off of individual events, I just think it's way fun. It's way more fun to watch. And I think the viewer base of people that enjoy competitive Clash Royale will be much larger with these team events than it will be with individuals. Because, I mean, unless you're like a very few selected individuals that grow a big fan base off of winning pretty consistently, I even then, I just feel like people get behind a team much more than they do a single player.
I think it's more fun to practice with a team and win a big event with a team.
Yeah, and even though it's
rewarding.
Even though it's oh, go ahead, sorry. Just saying.
So to bring up an analogy, so think about it this way, right? Like if you identify, like let's say you travel abroad or something, people ask where you're from. You're gonna be like, oh, I'm from the United States. You're not gonna be like, oh, I'm from this state in the United States, right? So I mean, it's just kind of a way people identify with things.
True.
So I think having teams is psychologically more beneficial for viewership and stuff because you can really get behind a team. You're like, oh, I really like queso. I really like what they stand for. I really like blah blah blah. So you get behind anyone who's in queso. You don't necessarily need to know the player. Just as long as you know the org, which I think is really big for any kind of like team-based event instead of like a individualized competition.
Yeah. And I think, so I really like that format. I'm happy that we're moving closer to that. And then CCGS also said it's probably going to do something team-related. I don't know if they're going to have 2 separate leagues or just the one team. But I wouldn't like to. I'm not saying I would like to see individual events like completely vanish from the face of the earth, but I think that format of King of the Hill is superior, and I really like. And you still have like superstar players that can sweep the entire team if they're on their game. But like I said, best of 3s would be best. For individual events, I think best of 5s, but for best of 3s where you have the chance to beat more than one player, I think best of 3s are good. So I really like that format. That's finally a format that I can like fully support. And then so we talked about ESWC and the Nemos's bracket. Talk about that a little bit more, as Aaron said, where they drafted players. I'm currently playing that, and we won our first round. The unofficial MVP, I don't know if they really did it. I went 4-0, and then I ended up being...
Yeah, I watched it.
I went 4 at the start, and then it was a little bit more downhill, but I ended up doing pretty well finishing out. I went 6-3. But that was some of the most fun I've had. Like, I didn't even know the format. They just told me they were gonna do a draft and that I was in it, and I was like, okay, sure, I'll show up. And then I figured out the format as I went. And I was like, oh, this is actually really good. And I'm on a team with mostly NA players and then Italians actually, and we're doing pretty good. I got passed up by Adrian's team. I think he missed me or something. Was it what he said? And they lost, so they deserved it. Adrian and Diego lost, and then my team's doing pretty well. The Check My Tank team or whatever lost as well, and then now I think we have like Surgical's team. Music Master was the one who drafted for my team, and I'm on that with Oxalate and Geo and Vendetta and Media. And who are the other two teams? Do you remember, Aaron?
Not sure.
Yeah,
Lupanji went off. Yeah,
Okrap's team / Lupanji. Lupanji, I thought he was going to complete the most difficult 12 win in the history. Like I wish, I don't know why they didn't play him first in the second set, because he went 6-0 in the first set, and then he won his game to close out the second set. But I was like, is he gonna go 12-0? Are we about to see this? But
that'd be so dope. Yeah, because my 4-0 was like when I went, because I mean it's so hard on paper to go on a winning streak, but the fact that you can do it as a single player is so cool. Because I think when I went 4-0, it was against like Pompeo and then Sergio Ramos, and then just the level of player I can't even remember the level. Oh, Tally was one, and then the fourth one was.
The last thing that you didn't mention actually might provide an interesting segue. I don't know if you want to talk about this topic, but you're going to know what I'm talking about instantly when I say it. The last team was CMQ's.
What about it? Wait, no, they lost, right?
Oh, they lost, but I mean,
yeah, badly.
CMQ has also been in CR News for.
Oh, you're talking about? Oh, we can talk about RPL stuff. Yeah. We can talk about RPL stuff. Yeah, I'll go for like another 5-10 minutes.
Okay.
They lost pretty badly though. I can also quickly talk about MGO Worlds with USA losing. So I don't know what do I want to say about that. I will say I didn't think we were gonna win going into it. Like as much confidence. Well, I won't say I thought we were gonna lose, but I felt more queasy going into the Brazil match than I did any other match, because my team didn't prepare. They wouldn't show up. And I almost fully expected them to not play as well as they could have. I didn't play well either. I also think I played Brazil's best player, so that was another thing. Samuel is really, really good. Win being the other best player on their team, I think. But he played well, and then I had like a good deck choice in our final game, and I ended up losing. I got out of rotation, and then he instantly just punished, and then I couldn't come back. So mentioning that. I don't know. The USA, in my mind, obviously, I think we were like a top 4, top 8 country, obviously, in the past 2 seasons. I mean, we are a top 4 country, top 8 country. But I think the talent is on pace to be number 1 or 2. But the players, like as individuals, are not very motivated.
Yeah, I thought the same. You should train more, practice more. I think USA has big chances to get like top 2, top 3, top 1.
Yeah.
If they practice more and all that stuff.
If I'm captain, and I'm not necessarily, I'll be a player regardless, I think, and I know I have the skill level to be a player regardless, even if I wasn't captain, but I think definitely for the next MGO Worlds, the USA team is, if I'm captain, and I'm going to suggest it if I'm just a player, needs to have other staff that aren't players that are almost like babysitters. Like these players just need someone to tell them. And I should have done it more. I should have just started kicking people left and right if they didn't show up, because what was happening was we were winning off skill alone, and then the first time we lost in the regular season, they were all like playing, I think, Rules of Survival when that came out, and none of them were practicing. And I would look at their accounts and see that they hadn't played in a week. And they told me they had. They were just lying because they wanted to start. And then they would show up. They would play decks that weren't good anymore, and they just wouldn't be able to play well. And the only person who I felt comfortable starting, regardless of whether they had practices, with CMC, and that's just because he's really good at the game. He has good mechanics. I still wish he had practices because he would have been better. But every time we lost, the players that performed badly were usually the ones that hadn't been showing up at practices. So that's a really big thing. And I mean, I've been told by multiple players on the U.S. team that practice doesn't matter. So winning mentalities are a little bit lacking in that area. And maybe it's just because they're not as motivated because it lasts so long and it's a team event as opposed to them proving themselves in an individual event. But that's something that definitely, when I'm looking at teams, like other than queso, like when contracts are around and I'm looking at teams, it's like I can look at the team members and think, like, I value like high motivation a lot for future teams, and I'll have to find a way to fix that in the future. I'm probably not going to put up with top players anymore if their personalities are like that. Because I mean, there would be, I'm not going to name anyone, but there would be players that he didn't talk to me for 2 weeks or the team, and then he showed up on the day of the match and asked me to start him, and I'm like, no. It's like why would I?
What I think about practice, I think practice is not too much needed, but what is really important, to play the right decks and to be ready for your opponent.
Yeah, exactly.
Call and prepared. What is that guy playing? How I can counter him? How I can outplay him? And all that stuff.
Yeah, and it's not practicing mechanics. It's practicing the decks that are important in the current meta and practicing them against the other decks that are good in the important meta. Or practicing your unique decks against your opponent, against the opponents. Either they're the decks they use or the meta that is currently used.
Yeah, but I heard, Colton, you did a good job on scouting some teams, right?
Yeah, I did all the scouting myself. I did all 15 members every single game. It was kind of a pain. I would go back, watch all their old matches, screenshot all their decks, put it in Discord, and then I would stat Royale every single one of them and like stalk them for like a week before a match.
Good job against Vietnam.
Yeah, I prepared really well for them. My team was motivated to beat them because we lost to them last time, but then they lost the motivation against Brazil for some reason.
Yeah.
Seriously, though, just to echo what you guys were saying, I mean, kind of looking back on the previous competitive season, I was with Hammers, and I think purely talent-wise, like I was not the best at Hammers, just no question about it. I mean, there are not many 30-year-olds that can like hang in comp play at all, so I mean, I'm happy about that.
Just Tally.
Yeah, it's like me and Tally, and I did take a little bit of offense when Swid was like, "Oh, Tally would destroy everyone if there's a 30+ CCGS." I'm like, "Yo, Swid, like you realize I beat him regularly, right? Like, little credit, Swid, but in MEL, I mean, which you know it's not nearly as competitive as like MGL Worlds. I had by far and away the best record in Hammers. I was 8-2. It was largely because I think I just prepared more. Like I made sure I got a really good night's sleep. Like before we had those matches. I would stats Royale when I just had better matchups. That was really what it came down to. When I look at like what people on my team had to play, they were usually trying to overcome a deficit because their opponent had a better deck. And I was usually playing with the counter, and I had an 80% win rate, and it was just because of preparation, nothing else.
Yeah, I will say like at the highest level, I'd say preparation is secondary to being really really good and knowing how to use your deck. But preparation is really important because you can not even necessarily getting like a counter to your opponent, but just having even matchups against the majority of their deck. Like if your opponent is a known spellbait player. Just like old meta, like with like Inferno Tower or something, you shouldn't play like Lava Loon against them. Like that's just if you won't, that won't happen. You won't get an easy loss being stupid.
Oh Golem or something.
Yeah, something dumb like that. Just being able to have even matchups and then just playing better than them. And then so yeah, that's it from MGO Worlds, and then Nemos's bracket is going on. Definitely check that out. Just search NEMOS on Twitter if you want to find his stuff. And then we went over ESWC, and then so quickly to touch on what I think, and then we'll go around, and then we'll end the podcast for today because I have to go. We'll talk about the RPL situation. I've tweeted about my thoughts pretty openly. I think both parties made a mistake. I think the punishment was too harsh, and I think their punishments have been too harsh in the past. And I think they're somewhat personally fueled with reasonable. I mean, Chizan has good reason. He gets hate constantly, and he does this all for free for the community. And I'm very behind how they run RPL for the most part. But I do think CMC got too much of a punishment. I think that was just miscommunication, and more of it should have been handled behind doors. But I also think CMC and several players are ungrateful for a league that is run for free. They don't have to. I mean, it's just a free competitive format, and awesome if other people want to make more leagues or fund leagues more. But I don't think there's any reason to crap on something that is given to you for free either. So I think both had mistakes, and then you guys can feel free to give out your thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, I can almost. I mean, I can see the perspective of the RPL admins because before.
Yeah.
I was a college coach, and I had to run these really big club tournaments for lacrosse, and there's always freaking players who are like, I don't want to deal with you. You are a pain in the ass. Like,
yeah.
I just want to kick you out of the tournament. But like, in the back of your head, you're like, oh, I can't, because in the long run, this is gonna actually hurt me, and I'm just gonna bite my tongue and then go get drunk with other coaches later and rip on this kid mercilessly.
Yeah.
Just a little look in the life of college coaches. And with the CMC thing, I'm not going to put you guys on the spot. I've had very limited contact with him, and I still have CMC was acting like a douche towards me story, which I think a lot of people in the community do. So I guarantee you he said something or he did something that probably rubbed them the wrong way, and they definitely overreacted, which is unfortunate because I think in the long run it really hurts them.
Yeah, I agree.
Like and RPL was a good league, and I want these leagues to do well and thrive because, like you said, it's really benefiting all of us. So like I hope whatever the friction is, they can get past it because CMC is a good player. Acting like a douche notwithstanding, he brings a lot of value to these leagues. He brings great gameplay, and it's really like they all want the same thing, and it's just that like guys, everyone love everyone. Like, why can't we all just get along?
Yeah.
That's what I feel. So I just feel like the whole thing's unfortunate for everybody, really.
Yeah, and I think it just comes down to like a misunderstanding on both sides, and then both sides handled it badly. Because they just didn't understand the rules. RPL was in the right. CMC in some ways was in the right as well. I don't think either were completely wrong, but they both reacted badly, and then it just got out of hand. So yeah, that was kind of my take on it. Do you guys have any like different opinions or?
No, I mean, I think you and Aaron said it really well. There isn't they're both clearly in the wrong in some areas and in the right in others. And I mean, it's unfortunate that it had to happen. But I mean, if it had happened to anyone, I'm kind of glad it was CMC that did it because, well, he's CMC.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked with him. I'm pretty neutral towards him. He's a lot better once you get to know him, as most people are. But I will say, as someone that's in a similar position to him, you can get kind of sour on the world when you have that much popularity because from your outlook on life, everyone hates you. Yeah. Hate stands out much louder than love for sure. And I've been told like I'm a really nice person by some people, and then other people would just like absolutely hate my guts and think I'm a terrible person. So it's very tough. In some ways, I'm obviously like very lucky to have what I have and have thrived and everything. But you get a lot of hate. And I can see the negative like reaction and you feel like everyone's against you because it can't be that way. And a lot of these a lot of these players that seem mean online, part of the reason is they don't carry themselves well enough online. But another part is that aspect, and then also just not knowing people personally. I think like Ace and CMC both get a rep for being mean in person, and they're both very nice people. Online, and they're very nice and easy to talk to in person. And then
I think that's something that Kings Cup 2 highlighted really well, is that like the pro community, when they're all together under one roof, is like really cordial to each other, really friendly. Everyone's just like having a great time. But like online, there's all those barriers.
That's just Twitter in general, and then
because you have like basic human social cues to tell you not to act like that.
It's
different. It's different when you're face to face looking at someone and you got facial expressions and they could punch you.
Yeah, for sure. No, go ahead.
Yeah, I just can agree on all three you guys. But what I think about CMC, he's like a guy, if anything he don't like, he don't like a situation, he tweets out on Twitter, he is hating someone. What I think he just do talk to the people, talk to Christine or the manager of FL, talk to Clash with Ash, and not post something on Twitter.
Yeah,
what do you think about that? I think both made mistakes, but I don't like every time anything he don't like, he starts a beef on Twitter or something.
Yeah, I think advice to pro players especially, and this is something that I think I've gotten a lot better on, is when making anything like public, think about if what you're posting, like obviously if it's something funny or if it's something about the game, go ahead, just post it. But if it's something that's directed at any other person or organization and it has any negative connotation to it at all, or it can be taken negatively, contact the people involved first and talk to them on a personal level in direct messages, and try to resolve the situation and before posting it. Because if it can be resolved in private, then you're not making yourself look bad, you're not making them look bad, you're not starting like a crap fest for no reason. You're unless they completely blow you off or don't acknowledge whatever, then maybe it is necessary to post it off. But kind of these like inflammatory these posts and stuff, like, I mean, there's no reason to share it publicly if it can be solved privately, which this and many other situations in the past with Clash Royale could very easily have been solved and just in private.
So something I want to note here is that, like, to play devil's advocate a little bit, if you have a really big following, for example, like CMC or George or Ace or any of the like Check My Tank guys who have like 5,000-10,000 followers on Twitter, like if you bring something public, it basically is going to go in your favor no matter what happens, because you're going to have 5,000, like a few hundred.
You have more supporters. Yeah, RPL has like 10,000 followers. He has 30,000. Chizen has like 2,000 or whatever. So
I mean, it doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. If enough people are like, "Yo, this is what happens," or "You have to do this," like they're gonna eventually give into pressure. So I can kind of understand from some aspects why they take things public, but at the same time, like as you're saying, try to hold yourself up to a better standard and just try to resolve it without involving.
I think that's important too. These pro players that have big followings, myself included, anyone, need to realize that they're not always right, and they're gonna get the wrong opinion if they tweet stuff out. Like, because they have fans that are gonna tell them they did no wrong no matter what they've done, and that's not necessarily healthy. Because it I don't know, it kind of feeds into an ego. And this isn't saying CMC does this necessarily, but just in general. You need to realize that you have people that are massive fanboys and fangirls of you or whatever, and they will support you to the end of the earth. Like as we've seen with like lots of other like Twitter things where people do something stupid, it gets shared, and then people still support you for better or for worse. And you need to kind of have your own, instead of living in that echo chamber. It's good to have friends and stuff that know you more personally and won't back you up no matter what dumb thing you do.
I mean, the other part though, which you guys probably aren't thinking about, but I would say is even more important than the love or hate in the CR community, is people outside are going to look at your social media. I mean, like Mike Colton, you guys are both in college,
I can
age, right?
talk about this, yeah.
Well, because look, I can give a specific example. Like when I was coaching, I had to hire a graduate assistant, which it's a kid who's still in college, but it's a really big resource for me. And there was multiple ones I just didn't even give a look, because I of course went and looked at their social media, and I'm like, oh, like this kid's like nuts, like they're partying all the time, like they're talking all kinds of shit to people. Like, no, I don't want that around my program, and just didn't hire them purely based off on that. So you got to remember, like a lot of other people can find your social media and look at it, and it can have all kinds of far-reaching impacts on your life that you probably aren't thinking about when you're posting that one thing because you're mad about a free league that you get to play in. If that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because organizations, and this is a big thing. I can't talk details, but when big organizations like that are involved in other games that are in like League of Legends and stuff, if they try to get inside Clash Royale, it's definitely part of their process to look at your social media, and if you look like an a-hole constantly, you don't have a good job of getting signed, no matter how good you are, because from their perspective, that may be even more important than you as a player, because they don't play the game that they're recruiting for. So they want personalities that reflect positively on their brand. No organization wants to hire a bunch of people that are going to throw them at deep waters. They don't want people. Yeah, they just don't want to hire people like that. And that's not just Clash Royale. That's like in general. Like same thing for any job. You shouldn't, because every employer nowadays is going to check your public persona and your social medias. So that's just like a life thing. That unfortunately a lot of CR players are really young and they don't think about.
I had to give that talk every year to the freshman that I recruited. It was the "Don't be dumb on Twitter" talk.
Yeah, when we were at Worlds, they had us go to like a 2-hour media training. Actually, when we were at the World Championships, the Final 16 or whatever for CCGS. Okay. We had a media training where for like an hour they put us Supercell, or I guess it was ESL, put us through. I think they had both. They had Supercell employees and ESL, where they put us through a slideshow saying, this is what you should say to reporters, this is what you shouldn't say. Make sure that if they like are gonna quote you, make sure that it's in the right light, and just very delicate about what you say in person, because I mean they don't want their players to reflect negatively on their brand, and they only gave I don't think they gave interviews for everyone. They picked people for whatever reason. I was one of them. I don't know if that was done intentionally or not, but they picked certain people to answer questions. Also English speakers for us. It was crazy though to see the Chinese media they were like swarming around the Chinese players. It was really cool to see. But yeah, I'm gonna have to end it from there. But before we go, you guys can like shout out all your social media, and I'll link it in the description below.
Oh, I'm good. In the event that I ever return to Twitch, it's Aaron Play TV.
Okay. Well, I share a YouTube channel with Swud and Mike G. YouTube, look it up. It's a great channel. We do daily uploads. And then my Twitter, obviously, is @MikeGCR. So give me a follow there.
Yeah, I'm a content creator. I have a YouTube channel, Tobias Talk. But I almost only post German stuff. But if you want to check out my gameplay, highly appreciate it. I'm live streaming almost every 2 days on Twitch. Tobi's Talk, and I have Twitter too. Check me out if you have any question. The best way, if you are an English speaking watcher, contact me on Twitter. I have my DMs open too. If any big question, just ask me.
Yeah, and thank you guys for watching. I'm going to try to do this a little bit more regular in the future, and if any of you ever want to come on again, please let me know. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.